Fox News alert, we are awaiting a verdict in the Kate Steinle murder trial. The jury now deliberating for a second day. Kate Steinle was shot and killed by an illegal immigrant in San Francisco 2 years ago. The defendant is facing a charge of second-degree murder, willful but not premeditated murder. Last week, the judge agreed to also instruct the jury in first-degree murder, which is willful and premeditated. The defense says the shooter killed Steinle by accident. The case sparked a national debate on so-called sanctuary cities because the shooter had previously been deported 5 times, but the San Francisco Sheriff's Office still released him under its sanctuary city policy almost 3 months before he killed Steinle. We are watching for a verdict, and we will bring it to you when it happens. President Trump is breaking his silence about the allegations against Alabama Senate candidate Roy Moore. President Trump appearing to throw his support behind the Republican and suggesting he may even campaign for him with less than 3 weeks to go now until the special election. This is Outnumbered. I'm Melissa Francis, and here today, Republican strategist and Fox News contributor Lisa Booth, former national security staffer under Presidents Bush and Obama, Jillian Turner, Democratic strategist and Fox News contributor Jessica Tarloff, and today's #OneLuckyGuy, Fox News contributor and political editor of townhall.com, Guy Benson, and he is outnumbered.
Hey, Guy.
How are you?
Happy Thanksgiving, ladies.
Yeah, what a great group. I'm excited to be here with all you guys.
Fun crew.
It's Thanksgiving Eve, right?
Yes.
You've got like the holiday excitement, or at least I do. I like that. I think that's sort of new, right? It was Christmas Eve always, but now we have Thanksgiving Eve too. It's like a day.
I'm all for it. It's my favorite holiday.
Me too. I was just going to say that.
Also, I'm all into extending holidays as much as we can.
Perfect. Great thinking. All right, back to business. President Trump is speaking out for the first time since allegations of sexual misconduct surfaced against Alabama Senate candidate Roy Moore. The president appearing to throw his support behind Moore while slamming his Democratic opponent.
I can tell you one thing for sure. We don't need a liberal person in there, a Democrat. Jones, I've looked at his record. It's terrible in crime. It's terrible in the border. It's terrible in the military. But does that mean... Well, he denies it. Look, he denies it.
So far, the president has not campaigned for Moore, but that could change.
Are you going to campaign for him? I'll be letting you know next week. But I can tell you, you don't need somebody who's soft on crime like Jones.
Trump's comments appearing to break with what some top Republicans have said. Both Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell and House Speaker Paul Ryan want Moore to leave the race. But Moore is showing no signs of backing down, and his opponent, Democrat Doug Jones, is stepping up his attacks. Let's go to Jonathan Siri live from Birmingham, Alabama. Jonathan, what's the temperature like down there?
Hi, Melissa. Well, physically cold, but as far as the campaign, it is heating up. In fact, speaking at a town hall forum, Doug Jones reminded the audience that Roy Moore was twice removed from Alabama's Supreme Court. Once for refusing to follow a federal court order on same-sex marriage, and earlier for refusing to follow a federal court order regarding the public display of the Ten Commandments. Listen.
Twice the people of Alabama elected Roy Moore to the state's highest judicial office. And twice he violated his oath. He violated the rule of law, and he was removed from office.
Roy Moore was invited to that town hall but did not attend. Instead, he's been granting interviews to sympathetic commentators. He's been using these friendly forums to dispute allegations of inappropriate behavior with teenage women, including a New Yorker report suggesting he had been barred from a Gadsden shopping mall.
I think for the people watching, and if they can remember back 40 years, even then, if a district attorney deputy would have been banned from the mall, that would have been on the front page of the paper.
Nevertheless, the allegations have changed the dynamics of what would normally be a safe Republican race in a solidly red state. But even before the controversy surrounding Moore erupted, analysts say Democrats were prepared for a good fight, part of a national strategy of recruiting solid candidates regardless of their chances of winning.
Doug Jones was just going to demonstrate how well an Alabama Democrat could do, even though I think most people expected that he was going to fall short. Given the allegations against Roy Moore, that does inject some uncertainty into the race, and it certainly made this race much more competitive.
And responding to the president's portrayal of him as being a liberal, Doug Jones said that he's going to let his record speak for itself, and he's not going to let anyone, including the president, try to label it. Melissa?
Jonathan, thank you for that. Let's bring it back on out to the couch. Guy Benson. Woo! This is a wild race.
It is, and Doug Jones can say he doesn't want other people to characterize his record. I'm happy to do so. He's a liberal, and he's way off to the left for a state like Alabama. He supports abortion through all 9 months of pregnancy. He's weak on the Second Amendment. So let me stipulate, I'm against Roy Moore. I would not have voted for the guy even before all these allegations surfaced, and I find the women credible. But I think it's shrewd, on a political level at least, of the president to push the spotlight back onto Doug Jones, saying, no one is talking about who this man is and what he would do and how he would vote in the Senate. That's the way I think Trump is trying to bring wavering Republican voters in a very red state back on side, even to support someone that they find maybe morally repellent. It's still an important vote, and I think that's what the White House is now trying to angle towards. Whether you agree with that, I made this point earlier on America's Newsroom, whether you agree with that approach morally is a separate question. Politically, this is about the best they can do.
Yeah. Jessica, can they succeed in making it about politics instead of about ethics?
I think that they can, because they did that in 2016 as well. The Access Hollywood tape came out. Lots of Republicans said, I can't support someone who talks like this. I have a daughter, I have a wife, I know a lady, and this seems really bad. And then people showed up at the polls, and a lot of them had even told people, I'm not voting for Trump, and then they pulled the lever for tax breaks and for a conservative Supreme Court justice. And that's where I think this argument really lies. There have been a number of articles, which I'm sure we've all noticed, about how Trump is very quietly packing the courts. He's made a lot of appointments that have flown under the radar. We had Gorsuch, which everyone was paying attention to, but federal courts are moving in a distinctly conservative direction.
Quiet. I mean, I think they're talking about it.
Well, we're talking about Roy Moore and now LeVar Ball and things like this, and tax reform, rather than focusing on this. And that's where you can get voters and just say, for the next 50, 60 years, we want to ensure that we have conservatives on the courts. Doug Jones is morally reprehensible to you, so is Roy Moore. I think saying, oh, he denies it, as if anyone who did molest a child would say, yeah, I did that, but no biggie, is ridiculous. But Donald Trump has had difficulty on this issue throughout the campaign and throughout the presidency. So,
Lisa, yeah, does this make it, is it possible to make it about politics? I mean, Jessica brought up the point of the last presidential election. I knew more than a few people who thought both of the candidates in the last presidential election had some moral challenges in terms of what they had done and what they had put up with in their life, and they decided to vote based on politics and sort of hold their nose on whether they agreed with the persons, the way they led their life, and all that sort of thing. Is this case, though, too severe to be able to make it just about politics?
Well, that's a decision that the Alabamians are going to have to make, because they are faced with a decision. As Guy had mentioned, I mean, there are a lot of voters in Alabama who view the issue of abortion as a moral issue as well.
Huge.
And so that's the complexity that these voters are going to have to head to Election Day on December 12th, trying to differentiate and figure out in their head. And also, just to add to the complexity of this, you have a situation where President Trump came out, made the statements that he has. Doug Jones, the Democrat candidate, is literally running an ad right now with Ivanka Trump's words, saying that there's a special place in hell for someone who does something that he is being alleged to do.
And Jeff Sessions is in that ad, too.
Jeff Sessions as well. And then you also have the Majority Leader Mitch McConnell saying that he believes the woman. So I don't envy the situation that Alabama voters are in right now. I mean, they're heading in with a lot of complexity and a lot of different voices going on, telling them different things. So
when the president says, as he did yesterday, that we don't want a liberal Democrat in that seat, no matter what, he's right. From the GOP's perspective, that's the worst case scenario. The problem that I think Alabamian voters are running up against is they now feel, do we have to choose between the Alabamians who are skeptical of Moore, and this has maybe changed their minds about voting for him? Do we want to have to make a hard choice between our core values, our fundamental principles as conservatives, for the sake of political expediency? Because that is an unpalatable position for anyone. And I think the problem with the party writ large, with the GOP right now, and something that everyone is grappling with, from McConnell to Lindsey Graham, is once we do that, if we make that hard decision that we're going, for the sake of policy alignment, we're going to hold our noses and vote for more, what does this portend long term? So we get him in the seat.
A lot.
What do we sacrifice down the road a year or 5 years from now?
Because Guy made the point when we were getting ready to come out here that may not be the best long-term political decision, because then Roy Moore will be used as the face of the party going forward. And what would that mean?
Well, I think it would turn off a generation of younger voters, certainly, if someone like Roy Moore is the face of the Republican Party. The problem for the GOP right now is, very consistently in the 90s, talking about Bill Clinton, they were talking about character and infidelity and accused assault and sexual harassment, and these being deal breakers for Bill Clinton. The Democrats circled the wagons around him every step of the way until about 6 minutes ago on this stuff. And so there is sort of a tribalism going on here, where when it's your guy, you protect him until it's convenient not to.
You know,
you also have
give up any moral high ground.
You also have Rep. Conyers and Senator Al Franken as well, which Democrats are also dealing with. So I mean, I think both parties are dealing with
Franken any
allegations.
day over this
well, wait, let's not do the equivalency on all this. It is a mess. We can all agree on it. It's a gigantic mess.
A bipartisan mess.
Yes, all right. A U.S. Navy aircraft carrying 11 crew and passengers crashes in the Philippine Sea. 8 people recovered in good condition. The search and rescue mission now underway, though, for those who are still missing. Plus, President Trump weighing in on the string of sexual harassment cases surfacing on Capitol Hill as calls are growing for more transparency.
There are a lot of really troubling issues, both with the Conyers issue and then in the broader question of how are our tax dollars being used to cover for private misconduct of congressmen and staffers.